stir it up and do things our way. So if you wanna move, get out of our way.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome to the Real Houseboys of Orange County.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm proud of myself on episode 2 now, and I finally recognize people. I don't have the face blindness where everybody looks the same. So I'm proud of, I'm happy for that. I can't say I can't say that I particularly like anybody on the show, but they look different now.
I mean, you have Heather as a guiding light because she's a brunette.
Yes.
But
and
the
Emily.
other one,
Emily's. This is the thing we joked about last week, is that Emily looks different, but I kept calling her Gina. And so that's just going to be a running bit.
Yeah, so you have most of them fake blonde hair, so it's hard to distinguish Tamra from Jenn from Shannon. Emily doesn't, as a housewife, typically doesn't have much of an identity outside of Gina. Those two are a pair or have been for a long time, so it makes sense they get grouped together.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I mean, where it started, of course, well, it started this episode, but it was the end of last episode, was we got to see the continuation of Heather's party, which was fun. I did a little digging for you guys because, I was out last week on OC, but Heather, so we know it's filming at her I guess apartment, her home, her
Balboa Bay one, right?
Yeah, which is like a country club resort / you can rent rooms there, etc. On the water. But the point is, she's renting a penthouse, so I had to get the answers for you, and those start at $20,000 a month for the upper. So that's it. And it looks like this party is in like the event space, like the downstairs community room.
This doesn't look like a home. It looked like a ballroom of some kind.
Yeah. And what's great about that, though, is as we get into this party falling apart and everyone going after each other, is because it's basically a wide open event space. You can see all these fights going on, but in the background, you see the other fights and other cameramen handling those. So, like, you look behind Heather, Tamra, Gina, suddenly you see Alexis flailing her arms, talking to another person. So it was chaos. You got to really see production.
And then they've joked about it in the beginning about how every Heather party has stations, like so many different stations and games, and then they had to sit at the table and play like different games and things. And I believe it was after Alexis and Shannon had their fight, right? Didn't they fight, then go inside and have to sit at this table together?
Yeah. That was painful. I mean, I would have. Something we need to give a shout out to as well, in case you guys don't know, Shannon's friend there, the woman who accompanied her, she's a friend of our shows. We know her. Her name is Pamela, and she is the hairdresser to the Housewives stars. She does Shannon's hair. She does Tamra's hair. So she has some pretty tough seasons. She split between the two, but that's not where it ends. She also does, up here in LA, Kyle Richards and Kathy Hilton's hair. So she, amongst others. So she is just constantly in the middle, being pulled between these like feuding housewives, these legendary battles. So
Queen.
Yeah. When we saw her was recently at that party where we saw Shannon. It was actually Kathy's party, and Shannon came up from Orange County for it and brought Pamela, which was fun.
Nice.
So she seems to be her escort these days. Pamela Brigardi.
Shout out to Pamela.
Yeah. That was fun.
I love the what was it, the question booth, that when they showed that in the background, I was like, oh my god, I thought it just, I think somebody made a joke, or maybe Jen made a joke about hoping there was cash in there because it was one of those cash machines. I was like, this is a classy party.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, there was no point in having the questions blowing around. You could have just as easily done that in like a bowl. Just drop the questions in a bowl.
Yeah, it was weird because it wasn't like a home and stuff. It was just random things stuck around this open like conference room. It didn't feel very. It felt like a continental breakfast at a
Yeah, and
hotel.
I mean, there weren't many people there, so it just
Mhm.
made the room look even bigger and emptier. It was an odd pa I'm new to this, so I don't know how the OC
This
parties
wasn't.
go.
Yeah, especially Heather Dubrow. Her part, you can tell from what you've seen, her homes and everything, they call her fancy pants. And her
Mhm.
parties are usually catered by Nobu in her $50 million home overlooking the water. So she was making do here. She's in a rental. She needs to keep it in Orange County. She has plenty of much better homes up in LA. So she gave them a little something.
Well, the food didn't look like she skimped on the food. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the sizes, but it looked fancy. Like that,
Yeah.
we'll get into Gina, but that was the funniest thing she said the whole episode is when she looked down at the amuse-bouche and said, "I don't understand why everything is not bread." That spoke to me. I get you know what? It's a good question.
Yeah. Oh, you know who was there too at the party? This is when we really first got to like I was gonna say talk to her. We're not in the episode, but Katie, you start getting a feel for Katie.
Yeah, I mean, I like her. I mean, she's
Mhm.
2 episodes in, and the first one she was like showed up at Stacey brought up last week that I guess it's unusual to like normally they introduce new people kind of into the season. They don't just drop them into episode 1.
Yeah.
And not that she had anything to do less in the first episode, but this one they kind of gave her backstory so you know more about her.
Yeah.
Like I just knowing from what I've read about what happens later on in the season, I know she does get into drama, but right now she's just like the outsider.
It seems like she's coming in with, from what we hear, I mean, Heather's open about it in all her interviews. She's coming for Heather. She
Mm,
came into the season with something against Heather. I guess her beef, first of all, just classic Housewives. Heather's top dog. You're new to the jail. You shank top dog in the cell
mhm.
block. It's prison mentality here on Housewives. But Katie's reasoning at the moment for when she's going to come for Heather is that they were at Sutton's holiday party and she met Heather and then like I guess they passed each other and Heather looked at her but just turned around like it didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I I mean, I've been to those kinds of parties. I wasn't at Sutton's, but I've seen Sutton at these. It's not a big deal to
Mhm.
build a season around a snub like that, where honestly, you're you're seeing who else is there. There are a lot of people saying hi to you. You're also looking for more famous people. I mean, I don't know if I would have registered Katie in front of me either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, again, she hasn't had much to do yet, but she had an interesting backstory. Like I love the way she's so just not flippant's the wrong word, but talking about her adoption as a child, where she joked about being FedExed from Korea.
I
And
cracked up
yeah,
at
that
that.
was funny. That was, and I love she just got some great like one-liners. Like when she said that it seems like exercise is on this show, they focus on people exercising a lot more. Like there's been several scenes in gyms, or they're running the stairs at the beach,
Mhm.
or they're practicing for this flag football thing coming up. I feel like on Beverly Hills, the only person who ever exercises is Kyle, and they make
Yeah.
fun of her for doing it. So I don't know if that's a thing that's a recurring thing on OC.
I think with Orange, like with Beverly Hills, they'll do things like go for a walk and run, not
Mhm.
run in, but like
Or
the
like hiking.
campus.
Yeah. Yeah. Kim and
Yeah,
Kyle
like
have done that a few
yeah,
times.
like some of those they do a little light exercise where you can have a deep conversation because
Mm.
that's what it's for. Orange County, I wonder if because it's near the beach, part of the image of the lifestyle is these active people out in the sun, so they try to feed into it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, how many of them are like on Ozempic and stuff? I don't
That's
think they're
what
workout freaks.
Emily last week joked about when she lost what, like 40 pounds or something, and she
Mhm.
flat out admitted, she's like, "Yeah, it was Ozempic, it was lipo, like upper arm lipo, I think she said, and then some exercise."
Yeah.
But I love that Katie's just so anti-exercise, which is funny. She had some great
Mhm.
lines about how what she said the only the only kind of exercise she does is her husband, sex joke. But the one I loved was she'd said, "I would drive to my mailbox if I could."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That won me over.
Yeah,
That
me too.
definitely did. Like those stairs aren't for me. Not just that. Even without back surgery and I walk a lot, but I mean, I hate going to places like that where everyone looks at you for stopping for a cig on
Mhm.
your little hike. I'm like, nah, that's a schlep. That's not a workout.
Katie was wearing a purse when she was doing the steps, like, she was not taking it
Yeah.
seriously, like the other I can't recall who that was. It Emily and Gina that was with her? I can't remember which 2
It
women were with
was
her.
Katie, Shannon, and Gina.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that that I had to read about, because so they introduced Katie's family,
Mhm.
that she has the 4 kids, 2 of them, I assume aren't gonna be on the show. One of them lives in Georgia with, I guess, the father, and then
Mhm.
the other one lives in San Diego because he was finishing high school, I believe they said. But the daughter, who they sort of focused on, um, they kinda made her seem like she's this just precocious she's actually 20 now, but on the show, she was 19, like, the little
Mhm.
chyron said 19, so they're acting like she's this precocious teenager that, is going on a date, and it's this adorable thing, and she's trying to get a job at a toy store that became the joke about the adult toy store. The daughter's actually kind of famous.
Really?
She's a well-known Twitch streamer.
Okay.
She like famous in terms of Twitch, like she's a gamer. I think she plays like League of Legends or something. But on Twitch, she has 20,000 followers, and on
Mm.
IG, she has 100,000.
Oh,
And
gee.
this is pre-show. Like this is not
Yeah.
like I'm sure that and that number's probably going to rise now that her mom's on the show. But like she's a known person, and there was zero reference to that.
I didn't like, honestly, I was like, I didn't know any of that, and when they were showing her and the age, in my head, I was, like, going through the schools down there. I'm like, "What college does she
Yeah,
go
no, I
to?"
thought that too because I'm like, well, she's too old for high school, but they're I don't know if she's in college, but clearly,
Yeah.
I mean, and if you want to check her out on Twitch and IG, her name is Kaichu,
Mm.
Kaichu. Like her name is Kylie in real life, but it's Kaichu. And I would have never known that except that I was like reading an article about Katie and they mentioned that. I'm like, I wonder if
Mm.
that'll ever come up on the show.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She might have her own, like, income g I know some of those gamers make a ton of
Yeah,
money.
I don't know if 20,000 followers on Twitch is a lot. It seems like a
Mhm.
lot, but IG 100,000, that's pretty
Yeah.
good for a teenager that now, like, again, now that her mom's on the show, I'm sure that's going to go up considerably, but it going into the show, it was
Yeah.
100,000.
She probably had more followers than her mother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, like, then the one thing I will say that it's a knock against Katie was the name of her son, which is I believe the only child she said she has with the current husband is, I thought I misheard it. I had to rewind. The son's name is Bandon, like not Brandon, Bandon, like the
oh
R is gone.
god.
And I'm like, oh no, that's no.
There's like a set of names for kids currently born, like, in the past decade that are just slightly off. Like, there are 10 different variations of Jaden or
Hmm.
Caden. People just
Hmm.
there's a set of names and they replace a letter, remove a letter, or add a letter, but they're all the same name.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh my god, how could we forget Alexis here? Sweet Angel Bellino, soon to be,
Mm.
according to her, Jansen.
Yeah, she has a promised ring, not a promise ring, but a promised with a D, because as she said, she's promised in the eyes of the Lord,
Oh
which
god.
was funny. Like I know nothing about a lot of these women's backstories, so when they say ridiculous things like that, I don't know if that's in character for them or if that's just because the other ladies were totally making fun of her for it.
Okay, this one was actually a point in favor of Katie because it told me that she didn't study the show from day one, like a lot of housewives do. Because when they're going back and forth over the promised ring, etc., um, and she's giving that religious explanation. Katie says to Gina or Emily, one of them, she's like, I don't get it. Is she like deeply religious?
Mhm.
Which, if you watch Alexis's first one as a Real Housewife, she was a deeply religious Christian trad wife. Literally, her taglines were like, her taglines were like, Jesus is my Lord, my husband is my king. I
Oh,
mean, she was totally into that. Like, he didn't want her to work. She believed in staying home. Like, she's always been that way. So
okay.
the fact that Katie didn't know that, maybe she skimmed some recent seasons, but that was Alexis's big
Hmm.
thing. And one of the big reasons why it's interesting to see her come back, because her life's a little bit looser now. I mean, back then Jim and the lawsuit, which is a big sticking point between her and Shannon, but they were very, very conservative. And now it seems she's a little more like, she still has a religious thing, but I mean, she has a kid who's trans and like
Oh, okay.
she's dating around. So it's like a new life. I like her. I'm not saying what she's doing is right, but I
Mm.
like that she's doing her job as a housewife.
I've seen a number of people bring it up, and it's the whole thing with her and Shannon. It's almost like she's the more standoffish one about dating Johnny J, which is
Hmm.
weird. You'd think it'd be reversed. Like she seems to genuinely be mad at Shannon, even though she's dating the ex. Like Shannon's the one. It seems like it seems like Alexis is way more mad
Yeah.
about it than Shannon, and there's no reason Alexis should be mad about it. It's very
Yeah.
weird.
I wonder if I was trying to figure out if something had gone on behind the scenes. I don't know, but if there were like, if Shannon had gone on like a like flipped out via text or something with John about it, because you're right. Like, she approached her about like, I'm upset with you because you triggered a lawsuit that cost me
Yeah.
300,000, and Alexis doesn't respond to that. She immediately goes to, well, I have your
Yeah,
ex-boyfriend.
it's very strange. Like she's very defensive about it. Yeah, like you said, Shannon. If we're up to Shannon, she would not be bringing up the ex boyfriend. So it
Mhm.
just keeps coming up.
Yeah. So I
It
don't know if there's something else that's not being discussed, like off camera. They seem to have a lot of like drunken text messages, or they have over the years. But
it seems Alexis just tries so hard with these. What do they call the line? Like the lines that have
mhm,
like the play on words and things. I forget the term that Housewives
yeah,
fans use for
like
that
a
when they.
double entendre, no,
Yeah, I
or
can't.
a
But there's like an
portmanteau.
yeah, like when I mean there's the door. Shannon Beador that was you could tell she was so proud of it,
Mhm,
but it was so dumb, and it was especially dumb given that they were outside. Like
yeah.
that would hit so much harder if they were in the room, but it's
Mm,
like, what door? She's out. I mean, and then the other one about something about a tornado that just
yeah.
didn't really make sense. It's like
Oh
she's
my
just trying so hard for these
Oh,
one-liners.
yeah, where she did that one, it totally reminded me of Salt Lake City, where she did that, like, something about, "I'm not gonna ride your tornado storms," or something, and all I could hear was, Heather, bad weather," like, from where, Salt Lake. But, yeah, that's why I do like Alexis. She's not the brightest, never
Mm.
has been. She doesn't see it that way, but she's just objectively not the brightest. So do you know what this reminds me of, actually, this dynamic between Shannon and Alexis, on a smaller scale. It's not national news like them. They remind me, Alexis would be Raquel,
Okay.
and Shannon would be Ariana.
Okay.
And Alexis is a little dim-witted, just like Raquel. She doesn't quite see the situation the way everyone else is. She's very confident in her how in her views, but no
Okay.
one else sees it. It's like there's something missing. I don't know. But that's how I see it. Like, if you were to pin Shannon as the wronged woman, I would say Alexis is kind of like Raquel.
Okay.
She
Okay.
doesn't see what she's done. I think Alexis somehow thinks she's a victim. I don't know.
Maybe that's why she's so standoffish. I don't. Yeah.
Mhm,
I'm still getting a feel, like I don't know which side I would take because I don't know which person I like yet. They
mhm.
as of right now, both Shannon and Alexis seem pretty awful. Uh,
I Yeah. I can't take a side because it's not like I've never been a huge fan of either, and I think they're doing a good job as housewives.
Yeah.
That's I mean, but I don't I know some people feel like Shannon is like Ariana. Like there's a lot of sympathy where Ariana was an innocent party who was humiliated on a national
Mhm.
platform. Shannon got a DUI, a terrible, dangerous DUI.
Yeah.
It's not like she rolled through a stop sign. I mean, it was,
Crash into a building.
and it has been something going on since her first season. Everyone has known and spoken about her drinking. So to hear just because, and it's not like Alexis stole Johnny J. I mean, it's really kind of trashy and messy that they hooked up right after, but there wasn't cheating. I don't know.
What was the time lapse like between Johnny J and Shannon breaking up and then Alexis? Was it like soon after or was it a while?
They said it at last episode and I forgot. I think it was a matter of weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's
Yeah.
quick. And then she's already got the promised ring after 2
Which,
months. So
by the way, that ring, I think I was the one who brought, not that the ring came from him, but I mean, I love looking at Alexis's Instagram. That's a new, because it's never normal. It's always something alluding to Johnny J and her love. Like every time, it's something obnoxious and pointed at, like making Shannon miserable. So when she posted that ring, first I thought an engagement, but then I saw the promise thing. I check hers relation, but then I looked at it immediately. I was like, oh, that's Van Cleef. It's Van Cleef and it's a very expensive ring. I
okay.
mean, it's gold and diamond. I think I looked it up. It's like 15 grand or so. That's not like a little
No, especially
token.
for a ring that means nothing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
impressive.
Van
Okay.
Cleef. I think I found it online on their website for like 15. It's like getting her a Rolex or a
Yeah.
Birkin. I mean, it's an expensive piece of jewelry.
She's not even a full housewife, right? Is she
No.
like but I mean, certainly in these first 2 episodes, you'd think she was. I don't know
Yeah,
if
she's a friend of. She used to be a full-time housewife, her original run. She's being introduced back as a friend of, which
okay.
seems to be how they do it. Like last year, they brought on Taylor Armstrong from Beverly Hills. They reintroduce you, and then I think you have to kind of earn your spot for the next season. It's like a
Well,
test run.
she's off to a good start.
Mhm. I appreciate her. I always say like the terrible people make terrible people make wonderful housewives. I don't have to like them to appreciate. I appreciate the spectacle. I appreciate
Yeah,
the art.
I know that was a big knock this year, at least among the fans on that I see on Twitter and such about Beverly Hills, is that it was lacking the drama because
Mhm.
some of the people just kind of seemed normal and kind of like good people. There
Yeah,
wasn't a lot of this kind of drama. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure there were in past seasons of Beverly Hills, but not this year.
yeah. There's hopefully something will break. We should say I was about to go right into current production on Beverly Hills, but they basically have about 3 weeks left of filming, so hopefully they'll get their little Aspen their little Aspen part two. But you know what though? Speaking of Shannon, there was that say, and normally this is how you know it's a good season and was a good episode. That Shannon and Heather sit down normally would have been the peak of drama.
Mhm.
It only lasted a few minutes and they talked it out.
It's so funny you say that because Stacey and I talked last week about, they go through they hit all the notes in a Housewives episode. It's
Mhm,
building up to a huge conflict. Every commercial break or what they kind of flash forward, letting
mhm.
this big conflict's coming. But this one they had two. They were teasing two. I'm like, oh, okay, this is wow, that's unusual. But then this was one of them, and it was like, oh, that was nothing. It was like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
2-minute conversation.
On Beverly Hills in a slow season, that would have been like the focal point of the season. Dorit and Kyle sit down but it was pretty quick.
There
This
was
was
some
one,
yelling, but not
but
yeah.
they were able to like flesh it out, which I mean, Shannon and Heather have never. they're frenemies. They're true frenemies. There's something about them that just doesn't click. I think they're not similar maybe personality-wise, but when they joined the show, they lived in similar mansions in the same neighborhood, which is one of the like, they both came in queen bee status, and I just think there's always been a slight distrust.
Oh, okay.
Because they were both cast to essentially be richer than the rest of them. These women don't live in Kodo in the inland suburb. They live in Newport Coast and stuff. But I thought Heather really clocked her when she's like, I don't need another apology. I just need you to say you trust me. Because that's been the ongoing. They don't trust each other. No matter how friendly they are, there's always a layer of like tension or something.
I'm still just getting a feel for who are the true friends of each, like who because after 2 episodes you really can't tell. The just getting back to the party, that was another thing when Shannon got up at the party, really upset, because of all the stuff that was happening with their questions and everything, and Tamra got up after her. It made it seem like Tamra was going to like console her or support her, but it was like, oh, these two don't get along either, because they just started fighting in the hallway.
Yeah, see, Tamra is nobody's true friend. Nobody.
Evidently, that's what I've heard going into it, that she's like a villain character. But having watched these two, I'm like, she doesn't seem that villainous until there.
You have to remember, she invented. I'm not joking. She invented the role of the Housewives villain.
Oh, okay.
She
I feel like you guys have talked about that over the years. That's why I've been surprised she's been kind of subdued these first 2 weeks.
She plays a long game. She plays a very long game. She's the Rinna. She stirs things up. She earns her check. So she may be your friend off camera, but if the season's getting slow, she will turn on you. And I mean, so she's turned on everyone over the years at some point. That's how she earns her check. I mean, you can count on her to move things along, like Lisa Rinna did.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know what conflict like really caught me off guard this episode? Because we had Shannon and Alexis, which is like the John Jandoval of OC. I thought that would be the big deal. Then we had Heather and Shannon. Too peaceful. I didn't like it. Gina Kirschenheiter and Jenn Pedranti, their confrontation like took off. I didn't know that would steal the show.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know their history, I mean, outside of how they explain it on the show. But I mean, it's Gina's. I don't know what to make of her, but it does seem like she projects a lot on people. Like giving Shannon so much shit over a DUI when she had a DUI, giving Jen so much shit about being poor when wasn't Gina fairly recently pretty poor herself? Like it's like she's attacking all these people for being things that she was or is.
Right. Yeah. So Gina, I stand with Jen. Jen, not Gina. I stand with Jen. I love Jen so far.
I do too.
Yeah, she is. She reminds me of Lori Peterson from early Housewives. And I love that in a housewife. Even though she's broke, she clearly has been privileged a very long time and is very sheltered from the real world. She can't really function with the difficulties of supporting herself. She's very dependent on men. And we know now that this guy Ryan was kind of a fraud. But what I like, yeah.
I was curious about that because I didn't know how long he'd been on the show or how what his backstory was. But the fact that Jen said that she doesn't really know, or he doesn't really do anything. She didn't say she doesn't necessarily know what he does. She just said he doesn't do anything, and then cut to the scene at his house. I'm like, oh, for somebody who doesn't do anything, that's a nice house.
Yeah, I mean, so we know now that Ryan was caught up in a national scandal. He was helping funnel the money that was being embezzled from baseball star Shohei Ohtani, $16 million embezzled by his interpreter to gamblers. and Ryan was the middleman handling the transactions.
There it
But
is.
even if we didn't know that going into this season, just that's what I mean. Jen's a classic housewife. The fact that like she seems very innocent, very pure, like a Bambi, a true Bambi, just like, and the fact that she doesn't know what the man supporting her does for a living is just a classic Housewives red flag. It's very Taylor Armstrong, very,
Erica.
very Erica,
Yeah.
even a little Lala Kent, who's not a housewife but was dependent on it. It's like it's that she's that breed of housewife, which is very triggering for some. I see some
Yeah.
people just hate it, like Gina.
Yeah.
Gina hated. Vicky would have hated her. Vicky was very much Vicky Gunvalson was very about get a job.
Mhm.
Ramona Singer would be like that. Get a job. Don't you work? Like, I'm like, no, let her
She
be.
works. She's a freelance yoga instructor. What she
Mhm.
said, she makes like $50 per lesson or something like that. That'll pay for
Drives a
her
Range
lifestyle.
Rover.
Yeah, that was another thing is that Gina was just laying into her, essentially attacking her for being not just being poor, but not looking poor. She's like, you know,
Mhm.
Gina's saying like, you have these nice clothes, you have full glam, you have a car. You know, she was upset with her for not looking more poor, which was strange given that from what I know about Gina's, you know, recent past.
Mhm. Yeah, so I wanted to, and Gina knows this. She receives the same treatment that any housewife would. Housewives get a stipend for glam on shooting days. I don't know what Gina maybe was pocketing hers and keeping that rat's nest weave
Mm.
in previous seasons, but um Jen would have been provided a stipend for a hairdresser or makeup artist for that day. That's all full housewives get that for filming. And if you're a friend of, you can negotiate it. They'll be like, I need an extra 1,000 for my hair and makeup, and they'll do it. So for Jen to act puzzled, like, I'm sorry, for Gina to act so puzzled, like Jen was out in the salon. Bravo sent her the hairdresser.
It makes you actually wonder where's, like you said, is Gina pocketing this money? Because the clothes she wears are insane. Like not even, I mean, there was the ridiculous like chauffeur's hat she was wearing at this blow up
Oh,
fight, which you can't take anybody seriously that's even if they're yelling at you that's wearing that. And then
mhm.
even worse was the shoes she was wearing at her showing when she was showing that house. She was wearing those like huge clunky Frankenstein
Mhm.
shoes. It's like, okay, she has glam. Where's that money going?
Yeah. She for sure shops off like Shine and
Yeah.
Temu. I mean, she's never been a top tier housewife. She came on kind of the poor one. This is what bothers me about what she was yelling at Jen about is that she's like, you're divorced. You need to get a job. You need to do this. So I had to go online and do the timeline because Gina came on her first season, married. By the end of it, there was, I'm not going to make fun of it, there was a domestic issue and she got a divorce. So, first season, married, second season, divorced, and living off being a housewife. And she ran on Housewives for like 4 years. Now, suddenly she gets her real estate license for like 2 minutes, rents out a couple of casitas, and she's acting like she's Vicky Gunvalson, businesswoman. Um, yeah. Jen has a job too. It's called being a housewife, the same job Gina's been supporting herself with for years. So she's trying to position herself as this like tough businesswoman, but she's tanking her real estate career.
She's mad at Jen because she thinks Jen is, you know, the fact that she vouched for her for this lease that she got evicted on, which I've seen a lot of folks who are more knowledgeable about real estate than me, like agents and things online, being like, "No,
Mhm.
that would not affect your reputation as a real estate agent. However, what does affect your reputation as a real estate agent is talking shit about your clients to other people, like talking about their finances. I've seen people say that'll tank your real estate business, not the vouching for anybody. And the fact that Gina just seems to be a terrible real estate agent. She even joked about, she said out loud, one of the things you need to know about in real estate is the price of the homes, because they cut to that previous time where she forgot the price of the home she was showing. She's a terrible real estate agent.
Like, and she really like, I've been listening to some realtors and reading through and my own stuff and trying to figure out, first of all, I just have to say, Gina's like, this ruins my reputation. And then she says, I found out about it on Jen's Instagram. Obviously, the Orange County realty scene wasn't abuzz with this knowledge. A realtor pointed out too, a lease is very low stakes. We're not talking about $100,000 commission. You're talking about a few grand. And so for her to act like she blew this huge deal, like she had if she had one of Heather Dubrow's mansions on the line, but Jen tanked it with this house rental eviction. No.
I mean, if there is a victim here, the only one who's truly suffering was Jen's dad, who co-signed the lease. He's the one who ended up having to pay for it, and he is on camera being very understanding. Like, you know, he's the one who could be the victim, but he came out the hero.
Yeah. And he was thanking Ryan for helping her too. I mean, her parents were so grateful. I think they were grateful that they didn't have to bail her out this time. Yeah. So they were just like, and Ryan's done so much. And Jen's like, I'm trying to thank you guys. Like,
this was the first, you know, every episode of every Bravo show has a big blow up fight in a public space. This was the first time that I could think of that the background people know, like they actually were. Did you see the way when Gina was yelling at Jen and the people in the background were kind of awkwardly turning, like very uncomfortable? Most of the other shows, they don't. It was very strange to see. It was like not really breaking the fourth wall, but it was like you don't normally see the background people involved. But this time they were all turning around.
Yeah, they must have filmed this at a pretty prime time of day, because normally, like, if it's in a restaurant, say they're meeting for lunch, it's really like 3 p.m.
Yeah,
normally the restaurant's closed.
It's empty. They're in it. Like sometimes there will be people in the background, but this is like I said, the first time I've actually seen people like acknowledge the fight happening, which just, God, that would be so uncomfortable if I was sitting next to them. Just wanted to get my coffee and this all hell's breaking loose.
You guys know, like I like to go to Starbucks, and I would have been taking videos.
Oh, I would have been crawling out of my skin, and you would have loved it. You would have been filming, you would have been posting, it would have been, that is your lane.
Yeah, I live for that. Anytime I'm in public, I'm hoping something like that will happen. But no, Gina, like, her other argument is that here's how she justifies the damage Jen has done. That this cost her a deal that would have netted her a $50,000 commission. And I listened over and over because it's so murky, this deal she's describing, and it was not a real deal. The money was not on the table at all. What her argument is that she had a home listing, a home for sale. She was repping the sellers. And this realtor who connected her and Jen to the house knew a lot of rich people, other potential clients. And what she was hoping to get is this house for sale, call that realtor and get one of her rich friends to pay all cash for this house. It was a potential lead. It would be like a car salesman being like, that guy drives by the dealership every day, and now he doesn't drive by anymore. There was no paperwork. No one looked at the house, no offer, nothing. The realtor was just over her. And like, she's acting like it was a done deal, and then they pulled the plug after Jen.
And like you said, it was just discovered because it was on Jen's Instagram. It's not like the realtor circles were abuzz with this. Oh my God, did you hear what Gina did? No.
Gina's the one drawing attention to it, and Gina's the one damaging her reputation. So
straight up Streisand effect. She's
Yeah.
making it much worse for herself.
Yeah, I mean, I would be terrified to use her as a realtor too, because what if something goes wrong and she's screaming at me, trying to humiliate me? Because, I mean, and by the way, again, she's been a housewife for, I can't even count how many seasons now, 4 or 5. The point is, she's a full-blown salaried housewife. So to act like this business, I mean, I get you want to set something up for when Housewives ends, which for her she's never been a standout housewife. It could be any day now. I get you want a business to fall back on. But the way she's like, I went out there and hustled to keep a roof over my head. You were a real housewife, just like Jenn. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna defend my innocent trad wife Bambi cast member.
I respect it.
So pure. I root for her.
Well, again, I root for Katie because of all the things that we said earlier about why she's hysterical, but also when you get Sutton's seal of approval, and
That's
don't
right.
think I was not the smile on my face when they showed scenes from next week and Sutton's on it. I was like, oh, finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Your girl.
Mm-hmm.
Your gal.
My gal.
Well, I guess we should save the rest for next week then.
Absolutely.
So you guys, please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and follow Pretty Corrupt Podcast. That's TikTok and Instagram at Pretty Corrupt Podcast, Twitter at Pretty Corrupt One, and of course from those accounts you can follow all our personals, Stacy's, Nate's, mine. There might hopefully soon be a wedding registry for Sutton and Nate. Fingers crossed.
At very least, there will be a promised ring, but she'll be giving me the promised ring. But still, yeah.
Hopefully Van Cleef too.
Hopefully,
I wouldn't mind.
I hope so.
Oh, and before Stacy shanks us, YouTube as well. That's right, Pretty Corrupt YouTube. So you could see these gorgeous glowing punums.
Yeah.
Really building up these wonderful people that Bravo features.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, who wants to say bye?
Adios.